Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to the Realtor Nation podcast, episode 13. My name is Ian Hoover, and I am the host of this podcast, and I'm very excited to bring to you the Realtor Nation, a show to help you improve your business. Today's pod, I'm bringing in one of my affiliates, Jason Horr with Terra Mortgage. We're going to discuss the mortgage industry and how we can use that industry to help us improve our business. Jason's wife, Tara, started the company back in 2015. They've done a great job building their business. Jason's a loan officer with the company. He also has over 20 years in the title business too, so a very knowledgeable guest, and we're going to be bringing him in. I'm very excited to have Jason Horr in my office. Welcome, Jason. Thanks for taking the time out of your day.
Thanks for having me, and I appreciate it.
So I want to start by talking about your journey. What was your journey to get you to where you are now in the mortgage business?
Well, total by luck and by chance. I went to college. I have received a degree in criminal justice. I got my first job in criminal justice. I wasn't making a lot of money, so I had a side job waiting tables in a restaurant. And it just so happens that directly across the street, there was a title agency. They used to come there after work and hang out. And then they talked to me, got to know them. They asked me to come over, check it out. And they offered me more money than I was making at my, job that I had a college degree in. So I said, okay, let's try it. And that was in 1998. So I started in title insurance.
And how long were you in the title business for?
20 years total.
Okay.
Still in it, some.
So why did you get out of the title business?
Well, I'm totally not out of the title business. I have an interest in a title agency, HDH Settlement Services. But I started doing mortgages on the side in 2000. And I actually opened up my first mortgage brokerage in 2003 with two partners. And then in 2006, I opened up my first title agency. Did a little bit of this, a little bit of that. So, getting into it, I have a loan officer license. I have a title insurance producer license, and I also have a real estate license. So I honestly believe that education is very important. So I'm working on files that I can look at things through a different perspective than most loan officers.
Very interesting. So in 2003 is when you opened your mortgage office. So did you experience any of the 2008 crash that happened?
Absolutely. There was a website called Mortgage Implode, where you could watch, and it updated lenders that were closing down daily. And it got up to several hundred at one point. But you have certain lenders as a mortgage broker. You have different lenders for different niches. So if you have FHA, you have a specific lender or two that give better rates than other lenders, so you shop them. And conventional, the same thing. And VA, USDA, all your different loan programs. So as those lenders were closing down, you were scrambling to find new lenders. And a lot of lenders were very difficult to get signed up with at that time too. They didn't want to take on new brokers. So it became very difficult. Like Bank of America, who's a very large bank, they used to have a wholesale and a retail side. They still have the retail side, but they did away with their wholesale. So that would be a lender that I used to take, conventional good credit people to. And they went away. They got out of that business. Wells Fargo, the same thing happened with them as well. And on and on and on. And hundreds of lenders closed down during that time.
Well, that kind of leads us into my next question, almost like a soft pitch there. How can an agent learn about all the loan products? Because there's so many loan products out there, USDA, FHA, VA, conventional, in our state, PFHA.
Right.
So do you recommend that an agent learn all those products? And then if you do, how can they get more information? How can they learn about those products?
I don't recommend that they learn too much about those products, because if they learn too much, they want to talk about mortgages with their clients, and they really need to, in my opinion, leave that to their loan officer or their lender to talk specifically about those, because they don't want to mislead them, and they have enough on their plate already that they don't need to worry about something else. But they do need to have know a little bit about a lot, just a basic understanding. And any real estate agent who has clients, the lenders that they work with on a regular basis, they should feel free to reach out at any time. about different programs, and their lenders should actually be keeping them abreast of different products and changing products and things of that nature on an ongoing basis.
So if you have a new client come to you, how do you determine what product is right for them? Because there's so many of them.
Just like a real estate agent would have basically interview their prospective, buyer or seller. As a loan officer, we want to do the same thing. We want to ask, what their needs are, what their wants are, what their goals are. Because someone can say, here's my credit score, here's my great debt to income ratio, what's my rate? There's all kinds of different things involved in that. But at the end of the day, what loan's going to work best for them? And that's something we pride ourselves on at Terra Mortgage, is we have that, conversation with a borrower to see where they want to be in 5 years, what their goals are, what they're trying to do. And that right there kind of leads into what type of loan program.
So I'm going to guess that it's on a large percentage of loans nowadays, but what is PMI?
You have private mortgage insurance. Anytime you borrow over 80% of the appraised value of the property, the lender automatically puts that on there. And it's funny because, a lot of people say, oh, great, I have, that insurance. Well, no, it's not to protect the borrower. That is to protect the lender.
So if that borrower defaults on their payment, then the lender gets some sort of a credit from the insurance company to
oversimplify it. At the end of the day, the lenders aren't in the business of owning homes. So they want to dump it as quick as possible. They believe that they can get, fair market 80% of the value, and then they're insured for anything over that.
Gotcha. So just a way for them to recoup the difference, almost like a gap insurance on a car.
Pretty much.
Gotcha. So what is the difference between a mortgage broker and a mortgage banker?
So we have actually 3 different levels. You have lender, mortgage banker, mortgage broker. So your direct lender, locally here we have PNC, First Commonwealth, people like that you go to them, they're lending out their own money, and you're stuck with just their loan programs. The next step is a mortgage banker. A mortgage banker is lending out their own money, and they typically have a warehouse line that they're lending it on. Then at the end of the month, they sell it off. So they're never going to service that loan. And then the mortgage broker, I'm just strictly shopping wholesale lenders. I do not have any of my own money at risk there. So I can shop any lender, wholesale lender throughout the country to see what's going to work best for somebody.
Is there any benefits to using one or the other?
Well, I'm a little biased here because I've worked on all 3 levels. I've worked as a mortgage banker. I've worked with a national lender before. And on the broker side, I believe, and I know this, I can give better rates. So whenever I am, selling a product to a prospective borrower, I know I'm beating anybody's rate unless they're another mortgage broker. So at the end of the day, loan programs are great, and there's hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of them, but borrowers want the best rate possible, typically, that fits their situation.
So if I was a consumer and I walk into, let's just say, a PNC Bank, they're one of the largest in our area. Mm-hmm. How do I know if PNC Bank is actually giving me that mortgage, or if they are brokering out and getting, Fannie Mae or Freddie Mac to buy that loan from them?
Well, PNC is a direct lender, so it's their money they're giving out. And they possibly may sell that on the secondary market, which gets into a whole nother thing here. But they're selling on the secondary market. The mortgage bankers, whenever they're doing a loan, they're doing it out of their warehouse line. And then they're already underwriting to the lender that they're selling that to. So they're already using someone else's underwriting conditions. And then as a broker, I'm using a wholesale lender, and I know that typically that's going to be sold.
So you're very good at guessing my next question. So what is underwriting?
Underwriting is the process where we gather all this information from the borrower, we submit it to the lender, and each loan program has their own set of guidelines. So as you submit the information to the lender, it goes into, quote, underwriting, and the lender, checks to make sure that all the information matches the guidelines for the loan. So that's when they're checking income. They're calling the employer to make sure they're still working. They're double checking, ordering tax transcripts to make sure that their W-2s and their tax transcripts match, things of that nature.
So they're the ones making sure that the information provided is correct.
Yes.
Okay.
Now, as a broker, though, we need to do our due diligence and double check it before we submit it, because there's no reason to submit something we know is wrong or, inaccurate to make the process go smoother.
So we're essentially in the same industry. What's your favorite thing about our business of real estate?
The money, the potential for income, flexibility. I mean, so many different things. I just love it. It's constantly changing. I don't have to sit behind a desk all day. I get to go out and meet with clients. I go out and meet with real estate agents. I think that's wonderful.
What is your least favorite thing about our industry?
Going out, meeting with real estate agents, meeting with borrowers. The same things that I like. No, the one thing I don't like about the industry, and I guess it's the nature of any industry, but the competitive market is great, to be competitive, but there's a lot of people that don't try to enhance a transaction. It's always a fight. We're all working, the real estate agent, the title agency, and the loan officers, we're all working for a common goal. Our common goal is to get a loan closed and to make the customers as happy as possible for referral business and repeat business. Sometimes you run into people that just, for whatever reason, try to impede the process.
It's a great way of saying that without specifically bashing anyone in particular. I agree, though. Some people make the process a lot more difficult than it needs to be. So from the time that you wake up to the time that you go to sleep, what's a typical day in the life of Jason look like?
Typical day of my life, I get up, feed my kids breakfast, get them ready for school, get them on the bus. I either go to the gym or I run some errands, and then I come to the office or I work from home, depending on, the other things I have going on in the day. And then I work until it's time not to work anymore. Where like last night, I just got tired of looking at the computer screen and I just had to take a break. And, the thing of it is my life revolves around my family. My daughters are very active and I try to be there for all their activities and things. So for example, last night, as you know, I was in the office until 8:00, drove down to Washington to get them from gymnastics, drove home, got them their snack, went over homework. They're in a readathon now, so made them read, did the timer, go to bed. All repeat next day.
Sounds like a pretty busy day.
And before you go to bed, you answer emails.
Yeah.
And when you wake up, you answer emails.
Best time to answer emails is when nobody else is answering emails.
That's right.
So why do you think that 87% of real estate agents fail by the 5-year mark?
87%?
Yes.
Probably a couple different reasons. I think one of the reasons, because they just look at it as money and they don't actually understand it's a job. They don't put the time and effort into farming, marketing, and making it full time. There's some people that just want to do it on the side, as a side gig, and then they realize after a couple years, like, oh my goodness, this costs money to be on the MLS and different things, my insurance and my license, and it's not worth it. But those are the people that obviously weed themselves out.
If you were to start over again, so you're 1998 and you're working in the criminal justice system, what changes would you make?
What, to my career?
Yeah.
Oh, had I known then what I know now? Probably nothing. I love every bit about what I do and where my life is right now.
That's great. Not a whole lot of people do. So the fact that you're happy with where you're at, that's something that I'm always having issues with. Keep
in mind, in this industry, because you're commission-based, there's a roller coaster.
Oh, yeah.
And you have to ride the waves. And there's days that, oh, my goodness, I didn't close. I didn't have any closings, for mortgages this month. Where's my pay coming from? But, after all said and done, I love every bit of it.
I think that's like an inner battle for me anyways, is that I have this want, this desire, this need to continue growing, continue building, and I'm never happy. I'm never satisfied no matter how good I do. So the fact that you're at least semi-happy with where you're at is great, and I envy that. So how many hours a week do you think that you put into your business?
Oh, goodness. So that's the other part, like why you're in this industry. And, if you're fairly successful, you're not working a 40-hour week. And I think that's anything, self-employed people have to, I believe, work a little harder or smarter in order to get where they need to go. So I don't remember the last time a 40-hour week existed. And I deal with people all over the country doing mortgages. So when I'm doing a mortgage for an investor in California, I know they're already 3 hours behind us. So, those are phone calls at, 9, 10, 11 o'clock at night when they're getting home from work. But I can't honestly say how many hours, but it's an ongoing everyday existence. Weekends, as self-employed, you work when your clients are available, and it's your job to make yourself available for them.
Absolutely. Anytime I'm sitting down with somebody who wants to get into the real estate business, I'm always explaining to them that, yes, you have some flexibility to set your own schedule. However, if you're not available when your clients need you, you're not going to make much money and you're not going to have clients very long. So it's something to keep in mind there. The one saying I hear all the time is you got to spend money to make money in this business. What's the best free way to get business?
There's a lot of free ways. And it's funny, whenever I meet with new real estate agents, I actually have a little thing. It's called 52 ways to generate business. Some of it's paid, some of it's not, but social media is a big deal right now, between Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, and, most of that, all that you can do for free, LinkedIn even. But something I started in 2008, I started in networking groups, and I've been in and out of them over the years. And although the networking group I started in was BNI, which was a paid group, at the end of the day, the final philosophy of just networking, I believe, is the most important free way to generate business. Because if you're not talking to people, and I used to call it dialing for dollars. So if you're not talking to people, you're not generating business. You're not getting your name out there. And as a small mom and pop, I don't have a large budgeting, for commercials and things of that nature. So networking.
You know what they say to call yourself now if you're a small mom and pop business, right?
No, I don't.
An indie business.
Oh, millennial.
I'm an indie broker.
Okay, that's good.
For the marketing you do spend money on, what's your best return on investment?
But that's tough because I don't spend a lot of money marketing. I've been doing this 20 years in the real estate industry, and I've, word of mouth and networking, I think is the greatest thing. I still believe in BNI, even though I'm currently not in a chapter, and that is a paid membership to go to that, and it's a commitment. But if I had to say, and that based on networking, but that's a specific networking group.
Yeah, I mean, overall, yes, it's a paid membership. However, it's so nominal. Like it's $500 around that price point. And if you get one in our business, if you get one deal, it pays for
multiple years.
Yeah, multiple years of you being in BNI. Yes. So and ideally, especially in the mortgage side of things, being in BNI, I mean, you should get at least a lead or two a month if you're networking properly and doing the one-to-ones. As an agent, it's more of a couple good leads a year, but those couple good leads a year are going to make you so much money. It's not even.
And the other thing that I like about it is, you get to fall back on other people because you get to have other people that are with their know, like, and trust, that you can refer out to people. So I'm somebody that likes to help out my friends all the time. So whenever they ask for something, I typically have somebody to give them, or, somebody that I trust.
Absolutely. Yeah. And you're building that relationship, and they're going out there and finding you business, which is a cool concept. Mm-hmm. So our industry is always changing. What do you think our industry will look like in 10 years?
I'm very hopeful of this, that we're going to be doing everything paperless, including the closing itself. Because as a mortgage broker right now, I'm 100% paperless. All my applications are signed electronically. I receive documents from clients electronically. So I'm 100% paperless. And in real estate, you're pretty much paperless as well.
Trying to be.
For the most part.
Yeah.
And then you get to the closing table, and then there's 100 pages to sign. And then, the closing agent scans those documents in, sends them back to the lender scans them in, and they're discarded. We have 67 counties in the state, and I believe there's 42 of them right now doing e-recording. So you don't even have to send the hard copy documents to the county to record them. So I just don't think there's anything that can't be done electronically, and I hope soon.
So could you envision, since you've done title work and you've done closings, could you envision literally bringing like an iPad to closing and just handing it around the table and having everybody sign their part? Or do you think there would even be no need for a closing?
That's it right there. There shouldn't be any need for like that formal closing anymore. You know, the industry's changed so much since I've been in it, since the late 90s. You know, everybody used to come, and way back when in the earlier 90s, real estate agents used to order lien letters and tax certifications. And then title agencies started taking that over. But then we had to close before 4 o'clock. And then somebody, you know, hey, let's close late at night. Okay, let's close on a Saturday. Well, lender permitting. But, you know, that has changed so much. But I think the need for a formal closing like that, you know, doesn't exist anymore.
Do you think that the formal closing will still exist because at the end of the day, the real estate agent wants their paycheck?
Yes.
I really think, I mean, I've tried to get away from the habit of just like, you know, wanting to be at every single closing just to get that paper check. Like, you know,
right.
I mean, my bank account could be in the green significantly and I'm still like, oh, let me go to closing to get my check, you know, when it's like, who cares? It'll come in the mail, you know, I'll get it in 2 days. It's fine. But,
well, the one part I like about actually going to closing as a mortgage person, I get to meet the seller's real estate agent, you know, and you get to interact a little bit, and hopefully it was a smooth transaction to where, you know, everyone's asking for your business cards and you're giving it out. So it's a great way to network and try to get more business.
Yeah, absolutely. So we're all small business owners, whether you're an agent or a loan officer. So we've all struggled at one point. Can you name a time when you were really struggling and what you did to get out of that struggle?
How many times over the years? You know, so I guess I'll kind of change the question a little bit. Maybe my answer may be off topic, but it is where it is. You know, I had somebody tell me once, because I do okay for myself now, and, you know, someone said, oh, you're lucky, you know, you're self-employed. And it seems like the harder I work, the luckier I am. So anytime, whenever I'm struggling, you know, you have to take a couple steps back and review your process. Because what am I doing right now that I wasn't doing, you know, a year ago or 2 years ago that maybe not working now? And, you know, over 20 years, we've evolved. You know, I've evolved quite a bit on different processes, you know, what to do and how to do it, how to generate business and try to farm and market, you know. So if you're, you know, farming and hunting, so a lot of people say, oh, you have to farm. But I think there's a bit of hunting that you have to do now because you have to eat now. So I think it's self-reflection. You know, you have to go back to the drawing board and try to come up with a new strategy on how to get business. But every time that I've struggled over the years, you have to regroup and push forward.
You know, I was just thinking the other day, I had a day when my phone was literally ringing off the hook.
Yesterday for me, I couldn't get anything done.
Yeah, I just listed a large commercial property at a very aggressive price, and I probably, from our marketing, received somewhere in the neighborhood of 30 emails and 50 phone calls in one day. And, you know, I just wanted to throw my phone and computer out the window. And then I had to take a step back and go, you know what? I remember the day when I wished my phone would ring.
Right.
And I never want that day to come back. So I better
right.
handle business and move forward. So technology is a huge part of our business. How do you think that it is most affecting our business? Like, what is most affecting our business? Is it Zillow? Is it you know, e-signatures? What is it that you think is affecting our business the most?
One of the great things with technology, and, you know, is your cell phone. Because I have people that do their loan applications right from their cell phone. You know, they don't have to do anything other than click, 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 click. They've signed, you know, 60 pages and they're moving on. I think technology is needed 100%. And, you know, we need more of it going forward. And I'm excited to see what else comes out in the future for that.
How important is goal setting?
I think it's very important. Every year I set goals, you know, and I set realistic goals because I don't want to set something astronomical that, you know, ridiculous goal that, oh, I can't hit that, because I look at that goal and I see you have one there on your, you have one on your wall there. That's perfect. I have one hanging in my office at home. and I have one on my computer for my goals. And I do yearly goals. I don't do monthly or anything like that. I think it's very important because you have to stay focused. You have to stay on track. And even going back to what I said before about regrouping, every day you have to look at that and say, okay, what do I need to do today? What do I need to work on today? Because I need to get to my goal.
Yeah, you got to be able to see those goals every day. Otherwise, you don't know what you're shooting for.
Right.
What is your 5-year plan?
5-year plan is to take Terra Mortgage into mortgage banking. And I love being a broker right now, and I love the rates that I get, but I believe on the mortgage banker side, I can give the exact same rates and just not be as greedy on the back end as some are. So I want to get into mortgage banking with more of a broker's philosophy.
So explain that. So you want to get into mortgage banking, what's stopping you from just doing it right now? What do you need to do to get to that point?
I'm just not quite ready yet. I don't have the infrastructure that I need for that. I have to do a little more research on it. I need to grow Terra Mortgage a little bit more before I can do that.
So my mentor was very impactful on not only my business, but my life. Who is your mentor and how did they help you?
Wow, that's tough. Who my mentor was. I don't know if I've necessarily had a true mentor in my life. And that's part of dealing with my stubbornness too. Because, so years and years ago, I learned a concept that whenever you do something, no matter what you do, you need to know what other people around you are doing. So for example, on a baseball team, there's 9 people, but they all have a specific job, but they all work in harmony and unison together. But if you play first base and you don't know what the second baseman's doing, you're kind of out of luck if, he throws the ball to you when you don't realize it's coming or what have you. And that may not be a great analogy, but so I've tried to take a little bit from everybody I meet, good or bad, and try to build on that. So I had 2 different gentlemen that years and years ago taught me how to do closings. One of them was an attorney that took an hour and a half just to go over the mortgage. And the other one wouldn't explain anything. He could sell anything to anybody and get you to sign without even looking at the document. So I think I've kind of taken both of those, and came up with that skill. And on mortgages, totally self-taught. So I didn't necessarily have a mentor in that.
Do you have a mentor in overall business or even in life that you maybe somebody that's just made a huge impact?
I have people that I strive, I look at and I look at them and I'm like, wow, that's great what you're doing. And I try to implement those things into my, daily routine. There's a Remax agent, Brian, that does a lot of videos, and I think you had him on a podcast quite some time ago, and he does a lot of videos, and I love that. And I'm looking into doing those now. So try to take from everybody because you're never too old or too successful to learn. And you constantly need to be growing and evolving.
So you kind of touched on it earlier, but how do you balance work and life?
I have trouble with that. I struggle mightily with that. I'm constantly on the go. I have twin daughters. They're 10. They do competitive gymnastics, so that's a year-round thing. And in between that, in their spare time, they do, basketball, softball, and anything that they see they want to do. So I try to be there for them for that. But, and I have a wife that's very active in helping with that. But I tend to work too much. Anytime I go on vacation, I take my laptop with me. Anytime I go anywhere, if I go somewhere for a gymnastics meet, my laptop's coming with me, my phone's with me, constantly checking and responding emails. So when you say that, I'm not good with that.
Is that because, realistically, the real estate agent has all the power in our business? They kind of control where the leads are divvied up. They kind of control the transaction, how it goes. So are you like that because you're afraid that if you miss an email until you get home that night to where somebody was requesting a pre-approval or something, that's going to affect your bottom line at the end of the day? Absolutely.
Because a real estate agent has multiple people that they're calling, and if you're not available, they're calling someone else because they have a buyer at a property and they want to move forward.
So is there a fix to that?
It's part of what I'm growing Terra Mortgage with right now. I'm trying to hire some people and currently interviewing processors, currently interviewing loan officers. But the processing part of it can alleviate a little bit of that, but I don't think I'll ever be done with that.
So you're talking about you're going to start focusing more on working on your business instead of in your business. But what I guess where my question was more directed towards is the thing that I'm seeing, the trend I'm seeing is there's so many big conglomerates out there who are trying to end the real estate agent, right? Like there's Zillow and all these iBuyer platforms. Okay. Do you think that there's a way to work with the agent a little bit better, or is there something that the agent can do to make sure they're not putting so much pressure on everybody around them, or maybe just a way to take it out of the agent's hand? And I don't know. I'm just wondering if you've ever thought about that.
Well, I think one of the problems with the agents, and it's not their fault, the agents are still in the pecking order, even though they're, real estate agent, loan person, title agent, that borrower is still above them. So when a real estate agent is out showing a house traditionally, and they can pick and choose their schedule a little bit, but they're dictated by the borrower or buyer of when they're out there. So knowing that, I try to make myself available at any time, because I don't know when, people work during the day, they're not going to take off work to go see a house typically. They're going to do that in the evenings or on weekends. Mm. So that's the one thing. And, you pre-approve it, and a good real estate agent isn't showing a house unless they have a pre-approval.
Right.
So, those already should be done. Now, one thing I like to do is a property-specific pre-approval letter. And that's kind of a strategy that a couple agents ask of me because they don't want to show their buyer's hand. So if a property is $200,000 and they're only offering 70, they want me to write a pre-approval letter for the 70.
So probably not getting that. What does retirement look like for you, Jason?
Haven't thought about that. No, and it's funny because my wife and I talk about that all the time. About retiring somewhere warm, but then also by the same aspect, I want to retire somewhere where my daughters might be. We didn't have a lot of help raising our girls to 10 so far, and I'd like to be there for them, whenever they start their families to help. So that's kind of where I envision myself. But in a dream world, I'd like to live here and snowbird it down to Florida for January, February, March, come back, do what have you, but just be around my kids.
Gotcha. So this is a question I added that I think is one of my favorites, and it catches people off guard, I guess. But tell us one of the funniest stories from your career.
Funniest story from my career. Okay. I have a lot of them, but this is just so the Green Gate Mall out in Westmoreland County. I actually did and this is, title related, both of these. I did a closing on the shoe counter at Montgomery Ward's because the borrower was working and refused to take off. And so 6 o'clock at night while she was waiting on shoe customers, we were signing papers. Another instance down, if you're familiar with 79 South, like in Greene County, the very last exit, or one of the last exits before you get into West Virginia, is Mount Morris. So I was down there doing a closing for, a refinance for a husband and wife. And only the husband was there. I'm like, oh, your wife needs to sign some papers. And he said, oh, she's down in West Virginia, with her sister. And in my small mind, it's West Virginia's like 2 minutes away. It's probably pretty close. Well, she wasn't. She was on the other side by Wheeling. And I'm not a notary in West Virginia. So we called and met her, and she came and met me at the West Alexandria exit off of 70. And we sat in my car and did her part of the closing at a Texaco gas station.
Why? Like,
you had to get the signatures. So, you do what you can to make it work. But those are just different things.
That's commitment right there. That's definitely commitment. Okay, so we're about out of time. So now we're going to talk about the Blitz round, where I ask the same 5 questions every time. So what's your favorite technology tool?
Phone.
Your phone. Anything specifically you do on your phone?
Yeah, my mortgage software is compatible. They have an app that I can do a lot of stuff with. So I can, kind of pre-qual somebody right from my phone. If, necessary, I can pull their credit, through the secure app and such.
Any other specific apps that like the more broad audience could potentially use?
No, I use very specific. You have to have a license to use them.
Okay.
No, there's people can, people ask all the time about, what are rates and things of that nature. And rates are based solely on your, credit score, and loan amount. That's the part that people don't understand. So if I have 750 credit and I'm buying a $200,000 property, or my loan amount is $200,000, that loan interest rate is going to price out better than that person that has an 800 credit score but he's taking out a $50,000 loan. So credit score and loan amount matter, but you can always check your credit for free. So when you're applying for a mortgage, I do try to talk to people like, where you at? What are you thinking? But there's all kinds of free technology out there for people to check their credit.
Is there any specific one that you would recommend, like Credit Karma or?
Though I don't believe any of those scores are 100% accurate with what they have there. And whenever I actually pull a mortgage rated, credit report, but they're close. So Credit Karma, I think it gives a couple scores. A lot of people's credit cards now, they can monitor some of their scores. So, people can be, a little bit educated when they come in the process.
Very cool. What's your favorite real estate book?
Rich Dad, Poor Dad.
Rich Dad, Poor Dad. It's probably the reason why I'm in real estate.
So recently, I bought the board game for children. And when I mean recently, it came a couple days ago because I want my girls to start playing it. I want them to understand liabilities versus.
You're talking about Escape
assets.
the Rat Race?
Pardon?
You Escape the Rat Race? Is that? I mean, it's not really.
I think that's what it is. No, there's a kid's version.
Okay, I was gonna say it's not really for kids.
No, there's a kid's version.
There's a couple of investment clubs around here that get together to play that game.
No, there's Rich Dad Poor Dad has a child's edition of assets and liabilities.
I might have to borrow that off you when you're done using it.
Yeah, it just came a couple of days ago, so I'm excited to get my girls playing it, just so they can understand, to have assets that pay your liabilities. And I tell them all the time, if you make $10 a month and you only spend $5, you're doing great. And if you make $100 a month and you spend $110, you're not doing so great. But I think this board game is going to help them out a little bit.
Trying to explain a rental property to a 7-year-old is quite difficult.
Yeah.
My daughter doesn't quite get the concept, but I'm working on it. It's something that you gotta instill into them. So,
right.
If you were not a LO or entitled, what would you be doing?
Well, that's tough. I don't know. I've been doing this, the greater part of, half of my life so far. So I don't know what I'd do.
Would you be dusting fingerprints off still?
No, I don't think so.
So you don't have any guess there?
No guess. I mean, when
Pittsburgh
you look at
Steelers? No? Offensive line?
No. God made football players and then he made me. But, whenever you look back at it as, a little educated on things right now, you look at different fields that are fairly lucrative, accounting, all people always have a job, always good with numbers. So maybe an accountant.
Accountant? That is like the last job on the face of the earth that I would ever want to be. So
then that gets away from the whole being out there meeting people and socializing a little bit. So I don't know.
What is your favorite hobby?
Golfing.
Golfing.
If we spend time with my girls out.
Yeah, take your family out of it. So golfing is your favorite hobby. We've been golfing together. You're way better than I am. What is your favorite thing about golfing?
Just being outside. I grew up in Greene County. I grew up on a farm. I really couldn't see my closest neighbor. So just being outside, I love it. Warm air or cold air, it doesn't really matter to me. I'm a short all year round guy. But I like being outside.
So I've known you for a while now, and I think you pretty much go to a very similar destination every time. What is your dream vacation?
My dream vacation, And I've gone to Hilton Head every year since my daughters have been born. Growing up, I didn't go on a lot of vacations, so we wanted my kids to know a place. So we go to Hilton Head every year. And we actually took them to Punta Cana last year with a large group of people. And while we were down there, they asked, when are we going back to Hilton Head? But honestly, my dream vacation, and it'll probably come here in several years, not taking my laptop no matter where I go.
That's a vacation I will never take.
But my dream vacation, honestly, would be, because I've been very fortunate. I've been to Hawaii, I've been to Aruba, Cancun, several different places. But before it's all over, I would like to see the ruins in Greece. I'd like to go to Italy. But when I take those vacations, I don't want to take any work with me. I'd like 2 weeks of nothing. I don't quite have that yet.
And that's where you and I differ. I'm my dream vacation is to sit at home with my laptop. So, well, Jason, I think we're out of time here. Thanks for coming and sitting down with us and explaining to the Realtor Nation the mortgage business, and hopefully we'll do a follow-up episode down the road.
Absolutely. Thanks, Ian. I appreciate you letting me in. And # brokers are better.
# brokers are better. Okay. Well, guys, another great episode. I hope you enjoyed it. Having Jason here in the office was a cool experience. Please like and subscribe to the podcast on iTunes or Google Play. Also, check out our website, dhrea.com, for more information about us. And until next time, this is Ian Hoover with the Deacon Hoover Radio Network signing off.